You know, like you've that's a AAA sort of like configuration. That's how they fight, and
Mm,
it's very effective at creating wonderful products. But it's very expensive and it's
yeah.
cost prohibitive to people like you and I. So
Mm.
I would say that if you want to go to the AAA,
Hello everyone, I'm really happy to share this interview with Andrew. He's a visual 3D artist with an overall 25 years of experience in the AAA industry, as well with the film industry. It was a really fun conversation with him, and I think we can learn a lot from him, from his AAA experience and his indie game development experience as well. And just a quick remark here, I had issues with the camera, so the first 6 minutes is going to be bad quality camera on my side. So yeah, apologies for that. After that, the quality of my camera becomes good. So I hope you enjoyed this conversation. Welcome, Andrew, to this video, to this interview. Thanks a lot for taking this time for having this interview about you. You contacted me because you are also you're a game developer. You have released games, and it's interesting to see your story and also how you have released your games. So yeah, thanks a lot for taking this time.
Paco, thank you so much for having me. It's great to be here. I appreciate the opportunity.
It's a pleasure. It's a pleasure. Yeah, no worries. So if you can introduce yourself, tell us about you. Where are you located? What's your background?
Yeah, my name is Andrew Swihart, and I'm located in Los Angeles, California. Well, I'm on the outside of LA,
Okay.
but I still drive in. LA is a huge city,
Yeah,
but
it's
I'm
a
in,
big city.
yeah,
How many people is it there?
I want to say 14 million,
Okay.
maybe,
Yeah,
give or take,
it's a big city. Yeah,
and a lot of traffic, a lot of
I can
cars, like
imagine. Yeah,
14
Los
million
Angeles is
cars,
famous for that.
a lot of cars, and a lot of people. Yeah, definitely. But there's also a lot of industry here, so that's fun. So my background is I've been a professional 3D artist for about 20 plus years now. And I've worked in video games and I've worked in film. So I started out as a kid. My grandfather got me a Commodore 64 when I was in second grade. Started learning how to do digital art
Ah,
from a really young age.
okay.
And I wanted to make video games. I'd always wanted to make video games. I have drawings from when I was a kid of how the levels would go,
Nice.
where the guys would jump and the power ups, and then he'd be shooting. And so I'd always wanted to make video games, but what I realized quickly early on was that making video games was really hard a long time ago, and it was a dream that really eluded most people. We didn't have things like Unity. We didn't have things like Unreal.
Mm,
We basically had to build our own engines.
that's really hard. Yeah,
It's impossible.
yeah.
If you're an artist, you're not going to build your own engine. It's just not going to happen. So I met up with a friend in high school who was a programmer, and he and I were going to make a game together. He was going to build the game, and so I spent a month designing this game, and then I met up with him, and he was building an engine. So we sat together and he's like, okay, let me show you what I have. And it was like this dot went across the screen and stopped. He's like, well, what do you think?
At least the basics.
And I was like, I don't think we're going to be making a video game. So that was like 1993,
Okay.
to give you an idea of what it was like back then. And then, but what I did end up doing is I got an internship at a video game company near my house, and I worked for free.
Okay.
And I would just show up and say, can I do anything? And eventually they had something for me to do. And within a couple of years, I was an employee at a video game company making digital art.
Nice.
So from there, I was able to jump over to, with connections I had, I was able to make the jump to Activision. Uh,
Okay. Nice.
through people that I knew,
Mm-hmm.
introducing me. And also I worked really hard at this stuff. Like I eat and sleep and breathe digital art. That's just like my whole focus, pretty much in life, believe it or not. And so I made the jump to Activision, and I ended up working at Activision for a pretty long time, 7 years
Wow,
at Activision.
that's a long time.
And I got to work on Spider-Man games. I got to work on Call of Duty games.
Nice.
And I sort of made my way up the food chain. if
Mhm.
you will, at Activision. The thing about Activision, though, that was really tough and made me not want to work there anymore was we would have these crunches that would go on for sometimes a
Mm.
year long crunch, and we would work 13-hour days for like a year.
Okay, that's a lot. That can, yeah,
It's too much.
too much. Yeah,
It's too
maybe for
much.
short periods of time, that could be fine. But then for entire year, then that's a lot.
It was too much. And back then, about this was about 2001 to 2006
Mm-hmm.
ish time. I was looking for a way out
Mm.
because I couldn't handle the crunches. Uh, and so I ended up working at like the internal development department,
Mm-hmm.
and where they would study new technologies like laser scanning. And I started getting into photogrammetry. And
Mm.
this was back before anyone knew what photogrammetry was, right? This is like 2004 or five. And I was able to get out of crunch cycle because I was no longer working on a project.
Mm.
And that kind of came to an end, and they were going to push me back into the projects
Mm-hmm.
because I'd done a bunch of research and I didn't want to go back. I was like, I do not want to go back to the crunches. And then an opportunity, a buddy of mine saw my photogrammetry stuff, and he was like, hey, we're working on a movie and we could really use some realistic 3D models using photogrammetry. And I was like, cool. Well, and so I drove about 5 miles down the road from Santa Monica to the studio he was working at, Sony Studios. And I went in there and I demonstrated to the team how to do photogrammetry.
Mm.
And they were working on a movie called 2012. I don't know if you remember it.
2012.
And
Mm.
it,
Was
it
it
was by
about the
Roland
end of the
Emmerich.
world?
One of those movies, yeah.
Ah, yeah. Okay, I remember.
Everything gets destroyed, the world gets
Yeah, yeah.
smashed.
Nice.
And what they needed was photogrammetry right at that moment
Uh-huh.
because it was still new and no one was doing it yet. And it looked really real at the time.
Mm.
So I was able to jump onto that show working on 2012. So I left Activision, and then I spent about the next 10 to 15 years working in film, working on a lot of different films, doing all sorts of things, a lot of different television shows. Um, but what I had learned from working at Activision was that it was still impossible to make a video game. Like it required the effort, the resources. We had 500 people working on Spider-Man. I have 500 people over a period of 3 years.
Wow.
And it's just, again, I realized like it's impossible to make a video game. You just can't do it. And so I was kind of carrying this with me. Like I still wanted to make games. I still had something I wanted to share with the world. But the doors just weren't opening. And so I kind of, at the end of working on a bunch of film projects, I ended up starting my own small studio for a little while. And we worked on a bunch of stuff for large corporations at my little studio. And I started getting deep into Unity. And
This was the moment that it was
Store.
becoming hot, I think.
So this would be around about 5 years ago.
Okay.
We start getting right into Unity and deep into Unity. And I started going, you know what, with the asset store,
Yeah.
Unity, maybe you could make a game.
Yeah, which all seemed impossible at some point with all this massive amount of people trying to make a game. Now Unity was making it easier to do.
Exactly. They were basically giving us the ability that we never had before. So you could be a designer, you could be a programmer, you could be an artist, and you could actually make a game. And up until this point, like unless you had an incredible amount of funding, it was just impossible.
Yeah.
You couldn't do it. You couldn't do it. And so now we had an engine for free that we could play with.
Yeah.
We had asset store stuff, so you didn't have to hire like 40 people to build animations,
all the assets,
environments, effects, UI. It goes on, doesn't it? It just goes on and on and on. And so I realized, I said, you know what? I can make a game finally. So I launched. I teamed up with the programmer, and together we put together this horrible, terrible game. We made it in 2 months, and it was basically like a Galaga kind of like you would shoot the aliens as they come at you in space, right? And And I went, okay, so there's something here. We could do something with this,
Hmm.
right? But I had to work and go back to work and do other things, but my mind was turning like,
Okay,
okay,
at this moment you were already working in your full-time job as a visual effect artist, and then
well, transitioned and I was running my own small studio,
okay, in the transition of running your small studio.
working on corporate projects. We had
Okay,
a big project with Carnival Cruises where we were working,
okay.
but my mind was turning like the 5-year-old in me was starting to see what was possible again,
Hmm.
and like breathing life back into the child in me, right?
Yeah, I think I also had that feeling that when I also discovered Unity and you could also create the games and you also had this asset store, my inner child came up and started getting excited about using the all you can use with Unity. So yeah, I can relate to that. Nice.
I'll sit in front of my computer and it'll like 10 hours just like whew, go right by. And my wife and kids are pounding on the door. Is anyone alive in there? And I'm like, yeah, I'm having a great time. What's wrong? So we released the first game. I think it was called Alien Attack or something. I don't remember what it was
Hmm.
called. I think we changed the name like 3 or 4 times trying to get more like hits, but it never really worked. And so then we made another game a couple years later. So now we're moving a few years forward because it takes time to be able to like have the time to work on a
Yeah.
game. So I was kind of like setting things up in a way where in my downtime between projects would have a good chunk of
Hmm.
space where I could work real heavy on something and get to like a goalpost and then go back to work and
Okay.
then work
Yeah.
thinking the whole time what I'm going to do. And then I would find a space, maybe on a weekend when the kids were in bed, I'm in here till like 2 a.m. working
uh,
away.
well.
And, and, and so then me and one other programmer, then we spent 4 months and we made a game called Remnants of the Dawn.
Okay, that's the one I found in the asset store. Actually, in the Steam page.
Yes. So
Indeed.
so Remnants of the Dawn was a project between me and one other person, a programmer. And we
Hmm.
made that in 4.5 months. And when
Okay.
you look at it, you go, I mean, my old self would have never believed that that was possible. Like you could never make that in 4.5 months. And we did. And there were some flaws with the gameplay, but it just really inspired me what was possible.
Mm,
Like you could really, really make a game. All the characters that were available now, all the assets, the environments for everything. It's like
mm,
it's there now. And if you can go through and pick out the good stuff, you can definitely put together something that looks really sharp. So
indeed.
and so that game, if you take a look at it, Remnants of the Dawn was all asset store stuff. And
Mm.
I kind of like saw myself as a curator artistically or an art director, kind of like taking things and setting them up. And the programmer who worked on that with me, Stephen O'Donnell, is a very
Hmm.
gifted programmer. So together we did a lot in 4 months, and it really made me think, okay, we could do even more. So the challenge though that I see honestly in making a game now is not in the the software. It's
Okay.
not in the hardware. It's in the different roles that you have to play as a game developer.
Mm.
In my opinion, there's four major roles. One,
Okay.
someone needs to know code.
Okay.
and,
The
and
programming side.
not necessarily like no code per se, but they need to understand game logic, right?
Mm.
That whole interactive element, casting the pawns, uh, uh, that whole coding side of things. Somebody's got to know it.
Yeah, indeed.
Somebody in the team has to know that, right? And that's really the first pillar. And this is my opinion. All right.
Mm.
The second pillar is somebody on the team has to understand game design.
Mm.
If you don't have game design, you've got the most boring unenjoyable thing that you've ever made that you spent a lot of work on.
Yeah,
um,
because in the game design you have to challenge the player and make
yes.
it interesting,
And not
right?
too hard. Otherwise,
Yeah,
you're
not too hard because otherwise they get frustrated and leave the game.
and there's an art to this.
Yeah.
There's a philosophy to this. I would call it an entire school of thought, right? So that's a very important part of making a game. And so I'm learning all this as I'm making these two games, right? Uh, and then the third thing is it has to look good.
Yeah,
Like,
that's the artistic side, right?
I don't mean real. It has to look good, feel
Yeah.
polished, it has to be presentable. It has to appeal to people. Otherwise, they're never going to play it. It could be really well programmed, amazingly designed, and the most god awful thing you ever saw. So those are the three main pillars. But unfortunately, there's a fourth pillar because I think a lot of us could do these first three, right?
Uh-huh.
But there's a fourth pillar, and that pillar is marketing.
Yeah.
And it's just as important as the other one.
Yeah, that's my last interview was with he owns a marketing agency,
Really?
and we were discussing about all what is related to indie game development and marketing. So that's really an important pillar, and if you do not take it into account, then it's really hard to sell your game.
Well, you're going to make something that no one's going to see, right?
Yeah.
No one knows about. And it couldn't be more different from the rest of those things. It's like a different world entirely. It's almost like trying to be an influencer on Instagram
Yeah.
versus like nerding out in front of your computer, right? Like
Yeah.
totally different things. So in my opinion, if you can capture all four of those pillars,
Hmm.
whether with one person, two person, three person, a team of people, I think you've got a really good shot at making a good indie game.
That's a really good team to support all what is needed. But what about music and visual effects? Where do you think they fit in?
I would put those into the make it look and feel good category, the artistic sensibility, if you will.
Hmm.
Maybe not saying art per se, but like the visual, like because visuals can fall into categories like does the rocks look good? To did you enjoy the cinematic? To is the sound moving you? Like all the things
Yeah.
that sort of give it poetry, visual and audio poetry. I would put that all in the same
In
grouping.
the same category.
Yeah.
And and I understand after checking your released games, I understand that you have worked a lot with the visual effects, sound effects. Your games, man, your games in the visual side and sound effects, and also the visual side of kind of cinematography.
Yeah.
It looks amazing. Your
Thank you.
games,
I think
yeah,
I
they
worked
look amazing.
really, I appreciate that. I worked so hard.
You can see I was able to see the effort, how you were integrating all the sound effects, the visual, the music, trying to make a momentum to
Right.
the game. That's amazing.
Thanks, Paco. I appreciate that. I work really hard at that. You know what? It's interesting. So then finally the game that I'm just now launching. So I worked another 6 months. This time I went it alone, mainly because not everyone can like pound this out forever, right? You really, it's like you become a Spartan soldier trying to do this task. And so I was able to, I kind of had to go it alone on this last game, Death of the Rising Sun. And so I kind of had to go it alone. So I made a couple changes. One is I switched over to Unreal from
Ah,
Unity.
okay. This is Unreal. The first one was in Unity.
Unity, yeah.
Okay.
So Unity was great. I
Hmm.
do not have a problem with Unity. Uh, I've spent 5 or 6 years working on in Unity, so I'm pretty familiar with Unity. When I jumped over to Unreal, I found being an artist, it just really felt a lot more like I was using like Maya or Blender. It
Hmm.
kind of mixed with After Effects with a visual coding system. And I thought, as an artist, I can see the appeal to this, right?
Okay.
So I jumped over into Unreal. but it doesn't surprise me that most coders prefer Unity, and it makes sense to
Mm,
me. I get that, and this
mm,
is not a dog on Unity. I think that Unity appeals to coders for a lot of reasons, and those
mhm.
reasons are what doesn't appeal to artists.
Ah,
Like it
okay.
kind of
So,
pushes them away.
nice.
And the opposite for Unreal.
Uh-huh.
It's
It
good for
appears
artists.
okay. There's opposite side. Ah.
Opposite. So it like in Unity, you can really strip out the engine and make
Mhm.
something really lightweight to run on a very like low end device. Um,
Mm.
and you can do a lot of things in C sharp, which is a
Yeah.
higher coding language than C plus plus, right?
Yeah.
I didn't get that backwards. I think I got it right.
No, that's why. That's right. The C hashtag is C bash is higher level programming, and C plus plus is lower than that one.
Right. Okay. Okay. So thank you for that. So if I'm going to sit all day and do code all day, I can definitely understand why Unity would be my pick. If I'm
Mhm.
going to do art all day, I can definitely understand why Unreal would be my pick.
Mm.
When it comes to the art, the tools, it feels like I'm using a well-oiled machine like Blender. It feels like native to the art.
Uh,
So I went ahead and that, and then the other thing I did too is so I taught myself Unreal, and at the same time I was teaching myself to code
ah. So
using
this, yeah,
visuals.
because before you had the other person who was coding, and now you had to take it over.
I had to take over the code. Um, so I think I spent 90% of the time developing that game, like watching YouTube tutorials on how to do stuff. And I'm glad that I've done it, but
Mhm.
I don't enjoy coding.
Mm.
But as I would do it, I would start to learn it and I would get the power of it. And I would sink in like, oh, wow, code is really powerful. I get it now. And then eventually I was able to do it without watching a tutorial. And I would run
Mm.
to my wife and I was like, I figured it out. The door opens when I get to it. I'm so excited.
Also for my wife, she's the first one when I share some achievements. Probably she doesn't understand so much about gaming, but then she's happy for me that I'm happy doing getting these achievements.
Yeah,
Probably the
she's like,
same
oh,
for
good
you.
for you, honey. That's great. That's great. Yeah, yeah, yeah. um, so anyway, I ended up downloading lots of code plugins
Hmm.
on the Unreal marketplace, and kind of like just
Hmm.
just putting them all together. And I have a 45-minute demo now.
Hmm. Nice.
So this last game actually is not done. It's a
Hmm.
demo. It's a work in progress. So I I decided, and I've taken some cues from a lot of other people I saw. Don't just work for 2 years on a game and don't show it to anybody. Don't just
Hmm.
like kill yourself to create something and then you put it out there and everyone like has all these horrible opinions of it. Like I learned that from my last two games. Get it out there and show it to people along the way and get
Hmm.
feedback early. The
Yeah.
sooner the better. So right away, I was showing it to people I knew who were game designers and they were just tearing me apart. They're like, what is this? And I'm like, yeah, but look how good it looks, And they're like, okay, I would change that, right? And I'll get feedback from game designer friends.
How do you get the contact for the game designers? Were people that you already knew, or was it something else that you did to contact them?
Well, it's interesting you should say that. So
Hmm.
that's a many parted question. Yeah, they were people that I knew,
Hmm.
but what I discovered is that anyone who knew me would always be nice to me. They would
Hmm.
always they would always tell me what I wanted to hear. I could manipulate our conversation, so I would eventually get them to say, "Oh, it's great." But I send it out to total strangers, like what I'm doing now. So
Hmm.
deathoftherisingun.com has a link where you can download the game. You sign up on the website, you download the game, and then I give people a form. Please fill out the survey. And these are people I don't know at all.
Uh,
They're from all over the world. We got people in India, got
mhm.
people in South America, got people
Nice.
in
Hmm.
Poland, Russia, like everyone, and they don't know me from anybody.
Mm.
And they'll tell me their honest opinion.
yeah,
getting a lot of great feedback.
that's good. But because we tend to give it to friends, people we know, and then they would be nice to us probably because yeah, you have some
Like your mom,
relationship. They
right?
would,
Oh, it's
yeah.
so great. Way to go.
But that doesn't help. It helps that okay, maybe I think that's a really good strategy. I think a lot of people can do this the same strategy to give it to strangers and to get real feedback about your game.
I think that I get the most honest feedback.
Mm.
So right away I put it out there, and I started putting it on Facebook, and I made my
Hmm.
Facebook group, and I didn't invite any friends to my Facebook group.
Nice.
So it
Uh-huh.
was no one I knew. And then I just put stuff on the Facebook group, and then I started posting it in gamer groups, right? My posts. People were being honest. And I would hear a lot of negative comments about it. And it's not that the game was a terrible game. It's just people are harsh and they're real, and they'll tell you what
Mm.
they really think. And I had one person say something like, "This is the stupidest game I've ever seen." Right? I think that's a little harsh.
Yeah, I think that goes to the extreme that yeah, it's yeah that doesn't help at least yeah it's not a constructive feedback, let's say.
It's not
Yeah.
constructive. But at least it got me kind of ready for what I needed to be ready for. And
Mm.
that was people are just going to say what they think.
Yeah.
And you have to be okay with that.
Mm.
Um, and it kind of got me ready early. So then I went and started a Discord, and I started funneling people from my website. There's also a
Mm.
Discord link, and now people are in the Discord, and I'm actually building relationships with people, some of them who have trashed me in the Discord. That's okay. That's okay. I want to hear the criticism so I can fix it. Right.
Mhm.
And I'm getting a lot of great feedback on the Discord and from people PMing me and telling me what they thought about this, pointing things out. Hey, you should fix this. You should fix that. And so right now, Death of the Rising Sun, the demo, the idea is I just want to get a lot of feedback from people so I know, how to move forward. Because sometimes you just need to get opinions. Not that you should take everyone seriously, but if
Mhm.
if your game has a fatal flaw, it's good to know now.
Yeah, it's good to know it and that you have time to fix it before releasing it.
Or yeah, don't waste time to release it if no one's
Ah,
gonna
okay.
play it,
Yeah,
right?
even if it's totally yeah, then you can start a
Yeah,
new game.
start a new game, and
Yeah.
then maybe that's the game, because this is my third game now,
Mhm.
and you just got to keep trying until you get it right.
Yeah, indeed.
Sometimes.
When are you planning to release the Death of Rising Sun?
So the demo is available now. So anyone wants to play the demo, if they go to deathoftherisingsun.com, they can download it. Well, they sign up, and then I send them a link, and they can play it now. So it is available now. The final version of Death of the Rising Sun, I don't exactly know when. Based on the feedback that I get, I will determine the best course of action to move forward. And I've also been really trying to find a publisher who would want to partner with me on the project. And that's because that would really make it easier for me to make it the game that it could be, versus just a real low level indie, right? It could bump it up maybe even
Okay.
twice if I get lucky.
So with the publisher, they will help you to market the game and to spread the word about the game.
Yeah, so publishers do a lot of different things.
Mm-hmm.
One thing they do is market. They help you market your game, which is a whole job. I'm discovering how much work it is because I have a Discord going, I have a Facebook presence,
Mm.
I have a website that's getting massive traffic.
Ah,
Well,
nice.
I say, well, I got picked up by a spammer bot, right, from China. I'm not kidding. I traced
Really?
it from, and they were spamming me for a while, and I was having to clear out all like the fake emails and
Mm-hmm.
stuff. And then people
Wow.
in the Discord were like talking to me, and I had to keep that conversation kind of going. It's a lot of work. So having someone to take that over for you is like, it would be great.
Mm.
But they can also help too, and they can help with funding. So right now it's just me. I would love to hire a game designer, and I would love to hire a programmer. That would be
Okay.
super awesome. you know,
Nice.
multiply me by three, you know, and then so the idea of having a publisher, I think for a game like mine that's a little ambitious,
Mm-hmm.
it's kind of like a, a I want to say it's like Uncharted, but like an indie version of Uncharted, right?
Hmm.
Kind of it's kind of an ambitious game, so it would be helpful to have some resources.
Nice. And for the channels that you have that you have between your website, the Discord, and Facebook, what do you think has worked best for you?
Steam.
Steam, directly the Steam page.
Yeah, so I would recommend for people to get really familiar with Steam and how
Hmm.
Steam works. Um, there's a whole other side to see Steam called the
Mm-hmm.
community stuff. And if you can get people in the community, I have a theory, and
Mm-hmm.
it's my theory. So I pushed really hard on Facebook,
Okay.
and I got kind of good responses. I had my webpage out there, kind of sat there empty. When I went on
Hmm.
to Steam and started really taking advantage of all the types of things that Steam provides, like
Hmm.
community engagement, news blasts, getting the word out on Steam, I noticed that none of the indies were taking advantage of that, but all the big
Hmm.
gamers were, right? All the
Hmm.
games were. And so I said, well, let me take a page out of their book and try that. And immediately within like 2 days, my website had 8,000 hits, right?
Wow.
It was like funneling off of Steam. But
Mm-hmm.
then what also happened is people who were looking for games to play, who are already at Steam, started
Mm-hmm.
posting my demo on all these websites for, hey, there's a free
Mm-hmm.
demo out. And so it started funneling all these other people to my webpage. So I was getting a bunch from Steam, and then all of a sudden I was getting a bunch from all over the
From the
world
website.
and Steam. And they all
Mm.
definitely came from Steam because that's has the most traffic.
So it helped that you provided a free demo, being
That was
involved in these communities,
mhm.
and then people, yeah, there are players there who are really interested in playing the games.
Yeah.
They were spreading the word for you.
That's correct. And so were the people trying to create content for their playing games on their streams, right?
Mm.
Because anytime something new comes out, a bunch of people want to jump on it because there's this whole streamer hierarchy where these people are trying to get views on Twitch. And so
Mm-hmm.
you're basically giving them free content. So
Mm.
so I'm trying to really the goal is wish lists are incredibly valuable and they're almost like so I've talked to a few publishers so far and wish lists
Mm-hmm.
are kind of like a currency that the publishers understand.
Mm.
So if you go to a publisher and you say, I have 1,000 wish lists, they're going
Mm-hmm.
to say, okay, cool. If you go to them, you say you have 100,000 wish lists, they're going to say, okay, we want to work with you, right? It's
Uh,
kind of like you are showing that you have a product that has value. So
okay.
what I've been trying to do is promote my wish list, get people to sign up my wish list. That's really been kind of the sales funnel, if
Mm-hmm.
you will, like give away a free game, get it out there for everyone who wants to play a free game. Oh, please fill out, join the Discord, become part of the community. Oh, please fill out the survey so I know what
Mm.
to fix. And at the bottom, please, it would really help me and I'd really appreciate it if you could be on my wish list. And then I can take those wish lists and I can
Mm-hmm.
show them to a publisher and I can say, I've got a bunch of wish
Mm.
lists and they'll say, great, we'll work with you.
Nice. Yeah, because they see that it's a proven product that is, people are wishing to purchase it. So it's also
Yes.
beneficial for the publisher.
Yeah, well, they don't want to, they're in the business to make money, right? They're trying
Yeah.
to provide a return on investment. So if someone walks in the door, it's kind of frustrating. It's like no bank wants to lend you money unless you have money. No one wants to have you on your podcast unless you are somebody, right?
Yeah.
It's kind of like that. So I thought maybe the best way to do this was to give something away for free, and that's the demo.
Nice. And it's a long demo. It's 45 minutes already.
It's 45 minutes long, maybe too long. Maybe I should have done a 15-minute demo.
No, but I think, yeah, because you're providing the streamers content to work, 45 minutes of video game playing. So I
Yeah.
think that works for them to stream they're playing the game. They are
Yeah.
not spending anything, and that is helping you a lot.
Yeah, it's mutually beneficial. That's
Yeah.
that's that's the goal, right? So I haven't actually followed this plan to the end.
Hmm.
So I'm hoping that it'll work. It might not. One thing that I've discovered, it no matter what somebody says on YouTube about what works, like it doesn't.
Yeah, because it can work. Yeah, it depends on the type of the game, how you're communicating. It depends on the tools that you're using. That, yeah, something can work for you that for other people might not work, and vice versa, right?
Yeah. Maybe for somebody else, a completely different method would be applicable. And also too, it's kind of like the gold rush kind of like concept where the gold was easy at the beginning, but now people are showing up and all the gold, like all the easy pickings are gone. So you have to start building machinery and digging giant holes in the ground. And it, it's like, well, I thought it was going to be easy. Well, the easy stuff is gone. Like there's a lot of games out there on Steam.
Yeah.
There's a lot of competition, but here's the thing: is that there is still so much money in games. If you take, I just saw a graphic on this recently, so I don't know if it's true. It was on the internet, but if you take film, sports, the NBA, all that stuff, television, and you stack it up, it's still less than what video games make worldwide. So now I know a lot of that is dominated by like the major players, but if an indie can crack in there, it's and then build a brand, I think it's a great opportunity. And I would certainly encourage people not to give up their dreams. I mean, because when you go to work at a job, that's fine. There's nothing wrong with jobs. They make money. You get to feed your family. You get to play with your kids. You get to work on your hobby, whatever you do for fun.
You have a steady payment.
You have a steady paycheck. That's great. But you also need a dream, and you need a vision, and you want to do something great with your life. And you've had this kid, this child in you who wants to build something wonderful that people will enjoy. And I think it's a noble ambition, and I love it.
Nice. I can see it in your face that you love this process, and I think
do.
many indie game developers are in the same situation. So that's really nice that you're.
Maybe too much.
But we can see. Well, when I was checking your games, I could see that all the effort that you're putting into your games, you can see that. You can see it.
I thank you. I shoot. I put my heart into these things, and I do it because I think I want other people to enjoy them as much as I do, and so that means a lot. Thank you, Paco.
Welcome. Nice. But and now that you have also worked on AAA games.
Yes.
And also that you are indie game developing indie games.
Yes.
What do you think it's the main difference between them? Besides the size of the team, what would you think it's different there?
They could not be any more different. They're completely different. So when you work at a AAA studio or a triple B studio or any studio, you basically you sort of man an oar on a ship, right? And you're told when to row, how fast to row, slow down, speed up, and you really get really good at one thing. So you do a really, really deep dive into one subject. So let's say your forte is code. Okay, well, let's get more granular. Now it's networking code. Now it's networking code across platforms. And it gets really, really detailed until you become the guy for one very specific task, like working on an assembly line. And there's nothing wrong with that. And that's perfectly okay. One of the nice things about that is that if everything fails, you get to blame somebody else.
Yeah, you are not ruined if
It wasn't my fault.
Yeah.
One of the downsides is you lose your sense of creativity, your sense of wonder, of sort of forging your own path. and you become reliant on someone above you to um, to give you orders. So I remember thinking like, well, what do I want to make my game about? And there was no one there to tell me. And I had to think of what to make a game about. And I would, well, what movies inspire me? And it's like almost like I had to go all the way back to when I was a kid and start to conjure up in me like what it was I wanted to say, what was my creative voice, because I'd spent so many years just doing what I was told. I'd become an artisan, not a creator. And I think there's a big difference, right? An artisan sews the handbag, but the creator is the one who designs the handbag. And that's very different tasks. So on in an indie game, one thing you can't do is blame somebody when it fails.
Yeah, it's totally all your fault then. Yeah.
And I think it becomes very personal, right?
Yeah.
Also,
They become your babies, right? The
totally.
game becomes your precious thing.
Maybe like too much. And if it fails, it's all on you, and there's no one to blame. And so you start to make decisions, and you have to exercise that decision-making muscle in a way that you really have to think long-term and strategize. And, well, should I make the character a male or a female? And why, you know?
Yeah.
And I can't do both because that's too much work. I
Yeah.
can't just hire a whole new team of guys.
You have to
gals.
optimize your time and your efforts.
You're wearing a lot of hats. So like one day I'm coding and I'm not getting paid, right? I'm doing this on my own time. So I'm investing. There's an opportunity cost there. Where at the AAA or triple B or whatever, you're getting paid just to sit there, you know, and it's due Friday and you'll get it done because Friday's plenty of time. You know, you'll get it done by Friday. Hopefully, as long as you don't goof around too much. Whereas when you're in an indie, you're like, okay, I have till Friday and I have all this stuff to do.
Yeah, if you don't work, nothing happens.
And it's not going to make itself. I can't pretend the other guys are all rowing while I take a nap.
Yeah.
And if I don't get done today, what I need to get done today, then I'll miss my Friday deadline because it's all going to like crash. And now I'm working Saturday, and I told my wife I would be with the kids on Saturday. So
yeah, that's something that you cannot change.
You can't change that. So when you're doing like indie development, I think it's very intense. There's a lot of pressure. You put a lot of pressure on yourself because you can't just write yourself a ticket. I'm going to work on this for 5 years. You might not finish it. You kind of want to say, okay, I'm going to have a playable demo by next Thursday, right? And I need to do a build because I added a bunch of code and it might crash the game. So I need to get a build done by Tuesday, right? And of course, you crash your game. It didn't crash in the editor. It crashed on the executable.
Yeah.
And so now you got to pull up Visual Studio and you got to wait for the crash and see what the error message is and then go. So there's all these things that this pressure you're putting on yourself, not to mention you didn't get that feature in that you really wanted. Like I'm still missing some key features in my project right now. And I'm like, well, you know what? I told myself this was the day.
Yeah, and then it will be too risky to integrate it.
I'm going to have to make some cuts because now the demo's gone live. I can't add that in. It might crash everyone's game. And yeah. So I would say that I don't know. Did I do a good job of explaining the difference between AAA?
Yeah, I think that's a really good example. And yeah, so it was. Do you think it's easier to transition from the indie game to the AAA industry, or vice versa? Or do you think both of them they have the difficulties to transition between them?
I think everybody has their strength. So and is uniquely gifted. So I might be better at one thing than somebody else is, and they're probably better at something else than I am on whatever they're good at. Me personally, my unique gift has always been the visuals and trying to inject like creativity and emotion and substance into the sort of the overall pleasantness of the experience. my what I'm not good at is code. And I'm always like I'm just gonna call a programmer to tell me what to do, you know. But eventually I figure it out, right? Whereas somebody else might be really good at code but terrible at 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 art. And some
Yeah.
people are pretty good at everything, but there's nothing they really stand out in. So I think if you want to go into AAA,
Mhm.
you have to really get good at that one thing is you're really good at
Mm.
if you want to make the jump to AAA, because AAA is not about a jack of all trades. It's
Mhm.
about a group of people in a tight fighting formation to accomplish a task.
Mm.
So
Okay.
you've got the flamethrower guy, you've got the machine gunner, you've got the sniper, you know, like you've that's a AAA sort of like configuration, how that's how they fight. And
Mm.
it's very effective at creating wonderful products, but it's very expensive and it's
Yeah.
cost prohibitive to people like you and I. So
Mm.
I would say that if you want to go into AAA, get
Mhm.
really, really good
Awesome.
at one specific thing. It's something that not only you want to do, but that
Mhm.
people notice that you're good at. Like it's
Mm.
kind of the intersection of what you enjoy and what you're actually good at, right?
Yeah.
Um, but if you want to go into indie, it's someone who's very wants to learn a lot about a lot of things and wants
Mm.
to explore a lot of things. And they might have something they're very good at, but they can see the value of the overall knowledge and how that can become something really great if it all
Mm.
comes together, and how to build something greater than the sum of its parts and do that independently and by yourself is I think it's a noble pursuit. And I think I said that earlier. And potentially something that's it's so challenging, isn't it? I mean,
Yeah.
Paco, you do it. Like you're like, I have to learn this whole new thing.
Yeah. Because for me, my experience is the opposite as yours. I have studied programming at the university. I have done programming professionally, so the programming is natural for me. But then I was facing now the artistic side, designing the game levels, design the visual effects, trying to make it visually appealing. That has been quite difficult for me. So, but I'm really interested in doing it. So I'm happy learning all of this stuff. So I think that you're right that you have to be able to be open to learn a lot of new things.
Yes. And if you ever want, I'll be more than happy to give you my any advice if you're working on if you want. It
Thank you, thank you,
you might
thank you,
not
Andrew.
want it.
No, of course, yeah, I will need. I'm trying to experience by myself now, trying to make a small game, trying to make it better, trying to understand and learn from my mistakes so far. Uh, but yeah,
That's the
thanks.
process.
Yeah, that's the process. Then I will contact you for some feedback, and yeah, if I have some specific questions. Thank you.
If you want, it'll be my pleasure. Yeah, that is the process. There's a lot of trial and error. I think um, so recently I was looking at some of the environments in Unreal,
Hmm.
some of the new environments, like the photo capture environments.
Mm-hmm.
And I was really enjoying like playing around with that. But it's funny because I used to just stick there. That was where as far as I would go, is just messing around with the visuals. But now I jump into an environment like that. And I'm like, okay, so how do I start getting a bunch of guys to attack? How do I, it's like my brain is now thinking so much bigger,
Mm.
than just that one area. And for me, coming from AAA, I think that's a good thing because it used to be very focused at that one
Yeah,
area.
only one part of the visual effects, and that was
And that
it.
was it.
Yeah, you
There's
didn't have to care about what were the other one, all the interactions with the other parts of the game.
yeah. And I wish I would have spent a lot more time talking to people at the studio who worked in different areas.
To learn from them, because they were the specialists on these all the areas.
Particularly the game designers. I
Mm.
wish I would have spent more time picking their brains. I remember seeing the game designers on a bunch of games, especially
Mm-hmm.
the big ones. There would be maybe 25 in a room, right?
Mm-hmm.
And they'd be watching videos of the play testers playing their
Mm.
games, like
Mm.
video after video.
Mm-hmm.
And you could see them just like getting frustrated and like, go left, and there was so much wisdom that was happening in that room from a game designer perspective, I
Yeah.
wish I just sat in that room and just heard what people had to say. I mean, there was all these theories and ideas like, well, you should only make it this hard and then make it easy so they think they got it and then hit them really hard again, like all those kind of like of game design that I'm starting to learn.
Hmm.
I wish I would have listened to a lot more of that. The programming stuff I'll never get, so I don't even. I don't, I just, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I think that, yeah. Or also, have you tried this? Yeah, maybe for the stage of your game, probably it's too late. But have you tried the visual scripting tools
In, uh, in,
in
in,
Unreal, Unity? That you have these
you
visual
mean
scripting
blueprints?
tools to program.
Blueprints? Do you mean in Unreal?
Yeah, blueprints from yeah, these blueprints from Unreal.
It's all in blueprints. I made the whole game in blueprints.
Ah, okay, that's good to know.
Yeah,
Nice, because
well, I'm slightly dyslexic, so I can't code if I wanted to.
ah, nice. You know, the first interview that I did was with a guy who was releasing games, also using visual scripting tools, the ones from Unity.
Yeah.
And I think it's really important to let people know that also artists are able to release games, these kind of games that you're developing,
Yes.
using these visual scripting tools, the blueprints. Because yeah, I have seen that there's a lot of misunderstanding from some programmers and some game developers that they say that using these tools you cannot make good games. But I have seen that you have been able. Yeah, there's good examples that you can create good games using the blueprints and visual scripting tools.
I think you're absolutely correct. You
Yeah,
can make a game entirely in blueprints. I think like One Tree or something was done entirely in
yeah.
blue.
1-3. This yeah, that's my biggest example that I have. This guy who the game of the fox, right?
Yes, the Fox game.
Yeah.
I see his videos all over. Oh yeah, the Fox, right? One Tree.
That's a really beautiful game,
It
and
is.
and he was able to do it with visual scripting. So everything is possible as long as you are, yeah, you can use it.
Yeah.
Yeah, go for it.
I think that visual scripting is probably one of the greatest gifts that these engines have given artists.
Yeah.
It allows us to actually control interactivity with the player and the environment around them, which it's a little daunting. I think that the Unreal, like the Unreal tutorials and things there are a lot to take in, and you kind
Mhm.
of just need to find out how to do one basic thing and kind of like wade into this pool from an artist perspective. I think one of the bigger challenges I ran into was just understanding the etiquette of code, right?
Hmm.
Making sure things are done properly, because there's multiple ways to do the same thing and you can really make a mess.
Yeah.
So there's like an etiquette that, and there's some great YouTubers out there who talk about a lot of this stuff, but the first couple times I tried to make a build, it crashed. And I'm like, what do you mean you didn't build? Why didn't it build? Oh,
Yeah.
well, okay, that's a problem. That's a problem. So understanding how to dot your I's and cross your T's, programming wise, is still important, but the implementation of the functions and the actions and being able to visualize like a
Hmm.
shader graph, how things interact with each other, or when things happen, or how
Hmm.
to turn on a cinematic is really easy from an artist perspective. And any artists that ever were curious about coding, I would
Hmm.
definitely encourage them to take a look at visual scripting and
Thanks.
give them.
Yeah, I think that's a really good message that that enables more people that are on the artist side to explore making video games if that's also their dream.
It becomes really frustrating though when people on the message boards are saying you need to know C++ though to
Yeah,
get past that
I can see
that wall.
yeah.
So do you do a lot of visual scripting?
No, because yeah, I just want to share the word that you can also do visual scripting. I really like programming on C++, C Bash. I really like programming, coding.
Yeah.
So I'm doing that. But yeah, I want to share also that word that you can also use visual scripting.
Yes, it's very powerful. Yeah.
Yeah.
Good job sharing the word. I'm glad
Thank you.
about it because I didn't think I was ever going to make a. So that was the final. That was maybe the final thing where I realized I could make a video game was when
Mhm.
I discovered visual scripting
Ah,
last
nice.
year, and I went, okay, I can do this. I can do
Ah,
this,
perfect.
and I did it. At least the demo. So it's a playable demo. It's 45 minutes long. I mean, that's longer than a lot of really old arcade games.
Yeah,
45. Uh,
which I will put the link in the description below
yeah,
in this YouTube video. I will put the
yeah.
link so people can access to it.
And if you go to my website, anyone who's listening and you want to talk to me about anything at all, I have a Discord channel set up, and there's a link on deathoftherisingsun.com to my Discord. So
Nice. I will put all the links around here
like
and also the description.
right here and here,
Yeah.
like and subscribe.
Maybe final question. How can people who are interested on the artistic side, visual effects, what you have done so far, is there a path that they can follow? College, some specific studies that they can do to follow also your path?
I think really the most important thing for anyone who wants to get into visual effects or AAA development, it really comes down to just studying the craft and
Mm,
really making it not just a hobby, but a passion. And
nice.
the more that you feed that passion, the better you become. And
Mm,
mistakes are made, and everyone makes mistakes, and you end up going down a few roads that don't take you quite where you wanted to get, but you just have to get back to it, keep going forward, and eventually you'll get there, and you just have to focus. I think that college tuition
mhm,
unfortunately is really high, and kind of creates a unnecessary burden, but at the
mm,
same time you do need to educate yourself. So whether it
mm,
be through YouTube, whether it be through being involved in forums, whether just trial and error is your way of doing things,
yeah.
or if you want to go and get schooling on the craft, whatever it is that you need to do, it has to really become your focus. There's a lot of people who want to do this kind of stuff, right? And a lot of
Yeah.
people do it halfway. A lot of people do it halfway. So if you can just do it more than halfway, you've pretty much beat out 95% of the rest of the people. And from there, you just keep working and working. I know a lot of people that when I first met them, they were just average artists, average designers, average people,
Mm.
just starting out. And now they're running studios.
Ah,
They're
nice.
they getting massive awards. They're working on feature films. They're because they just didn't give up. There's
Mm,
so many opportunities to give up, and a lot of times I think it's actually, I mean, this might be controversial, but it's a mistake sometimes to give yourself too many plan Bs, because you end
mm,
up giving yourself so many ways out that you never are forced to really climb the mountain. And I've climbed enough mountains to know that when you get to the top, like there's another mountain, but you just keep going and you
yeah.
keep going. But it's that's what we're made to do. And passionate people will find a way. And look at how much successful projects are out there. Look at how many successful movies, how many
Mhm.
successful game titles, how many successful artists, how many successful coders. I mean, these are just the people that wouldn't quit. And that's my firm belief. So if that helps anyone who wants to get into this field, you just have to make it your main focus. I would really recommend spending at least an hour or two a day. Like if you're a kid listening to this, an hour or two a day, really trying to uh, find a sweet spot in this sort of large field of
Mm.
opportunity. And if you're an adult, I would say maybe spend 4 hours a day. And the only reason why I would say that is because um, it's amazing how many young people like are really trying. They're
Mm.
really fighting for it. So
Nice. Thank you.
that's my,
Thanks a lot for that advice.
yeah, my pleasure. Well, it's worth what you paid for it. So I don't know. It's my opinion. I don't know.
Good, Andrew. Finally, how can people find you besides the link to the game? Is there any way people can contact you?
Yeah, so deathoftherisingsun.com. If you go there, you can go to my Discord, and I'm on the Discord. I mean, it's running over there right now.
Nice.
And I'm on the Discord, and you can reach me through the Discord. And I have a YouTube channel, Andy Swy, and I talk a lot about the game industry and the film industry and stuff like that if you're interested in hearing about that. And you can reach me at andyswy.com. Oh, andyswy@yahoo.com.
Okay. Yeah. Perfect, Andrew. Good. Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot for watching this interview with Andrew. I hope you enjoyed this conversation and you learned from his experience, from his view on the AAA industry and the indie game development industry as well. If this video was in any sense useful for you, please don't forget to push the thumbs up button. And if you are not subscribed to this channel, please don't forget to subscribe. I will continue having conversations and interviews with other people in the game development industry. So yeah, don't forget to push the subscribe button. Thank you, and until the next time.